transporting forest products. Okay, and in this we had finished forest products as well as raw forest products. So we used to carry lumber, we used to carry tissue paper, we used to carry craft paper, we used to carry uh, uh, what do you call it as uh, pulp, paper pulp as raw material for making various other products. So we as a company were responsible for carrying almost 80% of the world's forest products, which is shipped by the ocean. Half of the wood cut each year is used as fuel. This is a concern. If the wood is used for heating and cooking, now if you see heating, there is no limit to it. The cold weather, the colder the weather, the colder the winters, the more number of wood is going to be used for burning and heating the accommodation or office area. Now, in the urban areas, this heating is done by electricity, but in the rural areas, still it is done by uh, uh, burning the wood. Even in a place like Pune, where I stay, in the cold winters, people in the houses, in the flats, in their bungalows, they really don't require heating, or even if they require, they use electricity for heating. They have personal heaters and all that. But the people who are outside, that means the watchmen, these people, what they do is they start burning leaves and wood and all that for heating them throughout the night when they are keeping watch. And in the morning, when you open your window, you will find all this wood burnt smoke coming inside your house. And there are quite some people who have developed allergy for this. They do have asthma, and slowly but surely, people are getting affected by this smoke from the heating wood, burning wood. So, one third of wood harvest is used for building material. Okay, half of it is used for heating and cooking, and then the rest, one third is used for building material as lumber, plywood, and hardwood. So plywood and hardwood is again used for furnitures, and then the particle boards and chipboards. One sixth of the wood harvest is converted into pulp and used for paper industry. So pulp is a raw material which is brought to the paper industry, processed, and paper is produced. That's why they say don't print unless you actually require it. Your emails and all that, you get a warning in that, because the paper, the more paper you use. I have seen cadets in our institute. They are given notebooks by the institute, and some of them write few pages, and then the rest of the pages are unutilized. They just leave it here in the hostels or in the college. And once the journal is submitted, they never bother to come back to take those journals when the internal marks are given and all that. Now, remember this thing, if you don't utilize that, that means the one sixth of the wood which is converted into pulp and paper is not being utilized fully, and more is produced for the demand. So what I suggest every time is that you take these notebooks. If you are not going to use them, even journals, use those pages as rough pages whenever you are studying further. Okay, and use it to the extent that the last page is also utilized. Many forest lands are used for mining, agriculture, grazing, and recreation, and for development of dams. So when these this for mining, that means in that area there will be no growth. Agriculture, yes, you are growing. That is a good thing. Grazing again is going to reduce the forest area. Recreation purposes, resorts are made in the forest. If you go to the Black Forest of Germany, the Black Forest has been conserved to such an extent that it's the only place where it has been able to maintain its dense nature, because it has become more of a tourist spot now. But the people who are living there in that area near the Black Forest, there the housing development system has restricted from making any more houses over there. Only those old houses which are there, people cannot maintain, that will be destroyed. So they are interested because they are getting revenue out of it in the form of tourism. But places which are not popular, people don't come there. Those are overlooked. People don't bother about it, and slowly but surely they are consumed. Those lands are consumed for some recreational or development of purpose of them. That was commercial use. What is the ecological uses of the forest? The ecological services provided by our forest may be summed up uh, as follows. Production of oxygen. We know that trees give off oxygen. The more trees, the more oxygen, the more fresh you will feel. The trees produce oxygen by photosynthesis, which is vital for life on this earth. They are rightly called as Earth's lungs. That is why everywhere you will find the placards and boards are put for grow more trees, all that. They are more oxygen and reducing global warming. The main greenhouse gas carbon dioxide CO2 is absorbed by the forest as a raw material for photosynthesis. Thus, forest canopy acts as a sink for CO2, thereby reducing the problem of global warming caused by greenhouse gas, that is CO2. Wildlife habitats, when the forest is green, then you will find a lot of birds coming. When the birds come, cross pollinations takes place, and when pollination takes place, more trees grow. So all that cycle which we have studied as in the school is happening in the forest. Forests are homes for millions of wild animals and plants. About 7 million species are found in the tropical forest alone. Now, regulations of hydrological cycle. Forest watersheds act like giant sponges absorbing the rainfall, slowing down the runoff and slowly releasing the water for recharge of springs. About 50-80% of the moisture in the air about tropical forest comes from their transpiration, which helps in bringing rains. So these tropical forests, why they are called rainforest, is because they absorb the moisture, and this is the moisture which evaporates, forms into a cloud, and then again falls back as the rain. So uh, these forests are very important from point of hydrological cycle. And if we keep cutting them, there will be less rainfall, there will be floods around in various parts, and the whole system, ecological system, gets disturbed. Soil conservation is equally important because forest binds the soil particles tightly in their roots and prevent. More number of trees means more number of roots. More number of roots means they will hold the soil and prevent it from soil erosion. They also act as windbreakers. If you see there is a storm which is moving towards the land, and if there is a forest area at the land, the wind breaks and the strength is reduced to such extent that the storm is unable to destroy materialistic things made by man on the surface. Pollution moderators. Forest can absorb many toxic gases and can help in not only CO2, other gases are also absorbed, remember that, and help in keeping the air pure and clean. They have also been reported to absorb noise. And now this is something which we are not taught or aware of. Even the noise pollution can be reduced if the forests are there. That's why people, for recreational purpose or for sanctity, they go towards forest area, and their cottages are there. They live in that where there is absolute silence other than the noise from the insects and birds, which are music to the ears. And thus, this helps in preventing air and noise pollutions. So these are the ecological uses of the forest. Earlier, what we saw was the commercial use. Now, how overexploitation of forest takes place. Since time immemorial, humans have depended heavily on forest for food, medicine, and shelter, that is, wood and fuel. Also, with growing population and civilization, the demands for raw material like wood, mineral, fuel, paper, etc., shot up, resulting in large scale logging, mining, road building, and clearing of forest. Now, let me tell you a few years back, I don't know whether you are aware, there was a hurricane named as Katrina, which hit the Mississippi area in US, and lot of houses were destroyed there because of this hurricane. And these houses, as you know, in this area are made up of wood, mostly of wood. So when they were destroyed, they wanted to rebuild this house, and instead of cutting their own forest and using the wood, they did use the local wood also, but judiciously. Instead of cutting their own forest, the wood, the lumber, and the timber which was required for building the rebuilding the houses was exported from Germany. And I know about this because we were responsible, our company was responsible for transporting large chunk of this from Germany to America for rebuilding of the lumber, rebuilding of the houses with lumber. So the Americans, they have money, they can afford to do that, export it from some other country instead of exploiting their own forest to such an extent that they will vanish. So it was a nice move from the government. Our forest contributes substantially to the national economy. The international timber trade alone is worth over US dollar 40 billion per year. Excessive use of fuel wood and charcoal, expansion of urban agriculture and industrial areas, and overgrazing have together led to overexploitation of our forest, leading to their rapid degradation. Deforestations. Total forest area of the world in 1990, this is what I was talking about, that all over the globe it has been reported to reduce. There is no increase, forget about that, but reduction. Total area, forest area in 1990 was estimated to be about 7,000 million hectares, which was reduced to 2,890 million hectares. Just see how much. Hectares in 1975 and fell down to just 2,300 million hectares in 2000. Okay, so this is dangerous. Okay, 7,000 million hectares coming down to 2,890, less than half. How it is 1975? This is something is wrong. 1990 it was 7,000 million hectares. Then how in 1975 is less than 75 is before 1990. Something is wrong with the years over here. Okay, obviously it is not 1990 or it is not 1975. It could be 1980. Sorry, not even 1980. Or this could be 1995. Yeah, should be 1995. So in 5 years, you see it has reduced in less than half, and another 5 years again reduced by almost uh, say 500 million hectares. So deforestation rate is relatively less in temperate countries, but it is very alarming in tropical countries, where it is as high as 40-50%. And at present rate, it is estimated that in the next 60 years, we would lose more than 90% of our tropical forest. Next 60 years is nothing, you all will see that. Okay. The forest area in India seems to have stabilized since 1982 with about 0.04% decline annually between 1982 to 1990 and 1983. Estimated that about 1.44 million hectares of land were brought under afforestation during this period, leading to stabilization. So there we are talking about a success story where yes, the exploitation of the forest was done, but afforestation was done, where more land was taken into forest area and allowed for it to grow into a thick, dense vegetation. As per FAO estimate, Forest Area Organization, that is FAO, 1983, it was established, estimates the forestation rate per unit population in India is the lowest among the major tropical countries, despite the fact that we have a huge population size and very low per capita forest area, 0.075 hectare per capita. However, we are still far behind the target of achieving 33% forest area. As per our national forest policy, as we are still having only 19.27% of our land area and 63.38 million hectare over covered by forest based on satellite data. So as per satellite data, this is showing that India has managed to keep it low. Deforestation has taken place, but the rate is slow. And with the here we are comparing with the population. So obviously, when you compare it with the population, then the area is divided into per capita forest area. That means a person per person के हिसाब से with the number of people is 0.05 hectare per capita, which is very low because our population is more. So when you compare to that, the deforestation is considered to be mild as compared to other countries. But actually speaking, our forest area in the first place is very low. Okay, only 19.27%. So conserve that, we need to increase instead. What are the major causes of deforestation? Shifting cultivation. There are an estimated 300 million people living as shifting cultivators who practice slash and burn agriculture and are supported so clear more than 5 lakh hectare of forest for shifting cultivation annually. In India, AP, Andhra Pradesh, Bihar, and Madhya Pradesh, which contribute to nearly half of the forest clearing annually. So, 300 million people living as shifting cultivators means they practice to harvest and then burn the agriculture and then move to another place too. Because what happens is in many areas the soil quality is such that after one harvest it is very difficult to grow anything else immediately for the next season. So they have to go to another place for doing cultivation and wait for this place soil to get nourished back to support any growth. Like in Maharashtra, if you see, lot of cultivation of sugarcane is happening, and which is not a good idea. Okay, sugarcane is grown almost everywhere in Maharashtra, and which is a very easy cultivation. Once you are able to grow that sugarcane, after that you have to do nothing. You just have to keep watering the fields, and there is not much to do after that compared to other crops. And these sugar factories, they buy these sugarcane fields in auction, and they come, they will cut it, they will take the harvest, they will pay the farmer, and sugarcane can be consecutively grown for almost 3 consecutive seasons. That means almost 3 years. Okay, it can be grown on the same soil. After that, soil becomes undernourished, and then you need to wait for. And what the farmers do is that they plant some other crop to promote nourishment, as well as those crops can be used to feed them by selling it. Fuel requirement. Increasing demand for fuel wood by the growing population in India alone has shot up to 300 to 500 million tons as compared to just 65 million tons during the independence, thereby increasing the pressure on the forest. That is the reason our government, the BJP government, has been promising to give more gas LPG cylinders to the rural areas, because these are the ones who are using wood as fuel for cooking and heating. So, providing gas to each and every of this is very difficult task in India, but it is at least started. So, if all of them have these gas cylinders, then they will be able to preserve the firewood from the forest. Now, in doing so, the cost of the unit gas cylinder in India has gone up because the subsidies have been removed. And the subsidies have been removed so that they can cater to more number of people at a reasonable rate. Raw material for industrial use. Wood for making boxes, furniture, railway sleepers, plywood, matchboxes, pulp for paper industry, etc. have exerted tremendous pressure on forest. Plywood is in great demand for packing tea for tea industry of Assam, while fir tree wood is exploited greatly for packing apples in Jammu and Kashmir. So you can see it is very self-explanatory. Uh, if an apple is grown, it has to be exported because the local consumption is very low and local consumption does not yield much profit. So it has to be exported to another place. So it has to be packed. So where do they get the packing material? From those trees which are growing this. So in the long run, you're destroying the source of income. Okay. Development projects. Massive destruction of forest occurs for various development projects like hydroelectric projects for generating electricity, big dams, road construction, mining, etc. Growing food needs. In developing countries, this is the main reason for deforestation. To meet the demand of rapidly growing population, agricultural lands and settlements are created permanently by clearing forest. Now, India as a country, I don't know how many of you will agree, but once you are seen the world, then you will know. I have traveled to 95 countries, and some of these I have traveled more than one times. So I have seen the amount of food, I would not say amount, but the variety of food which is available in India, I have not seen in any of these countries. Okay? The variety of food, there's different types of foods, right from leafy vegetable to the fruits, which can be, the coconut fruit you must have been taught in the school is coconut plant is the one which can be exploited 100%. Okay, each and every fiber of the coconut tree can be exploited for use by human beings. So these are the greatly benefiting type of trees which can actually uh, 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 take the beating and save the other type of species. So because if you are going to extract different things from different plants, then all those species are going to get destroyed. But coconut takes the burden, and it substitutes so many things that other species or other types of plants can be protected. Now, if you go to some countries, they have not even seen a coconut, or maybe only in movies or pictures. So we are blessed. We are blessed with natural resources. The thing is, uh, one more reason for having variety of food in India is the culture of cooking is still there, which is slowly dying in urban areas. And also, the so many mouths to feed. So if the food, you must have heard about this, that in the five-star hotels where the food is remaining, they give it donated to the people on the same day, where people who don't have food to eat. And there's an NGO which does this job of taking the food from five-star hotels and giving it to the, not that the food in the five-star hotel is mostly the state food, but at least the food is not being wasted. So in India, there are more mouths to feed. That is why the utilization of this also is good to quite an extent. Now, since you guys are in the hostel, I believe, when you go for this, I don't know whether it's there in all the mess room, but mess room number two, or hostel number two, the mess room, there used to be a board I have seen that eat, take only what you can eat. Okay, many students take a lot of food and then they can't eat, and then there is wastage. And before the pandemic, I don't know whether they continue now. There was a board which was writing how much food was wasted yesterday as leftover as by the students. Okay, so how much was consumed and how much was wasted. They are supposed to write that. I don't know whether they continue to do that or not. Overgrazing. The poor in the tropics mainly rely on wood as a source of fuel, leading to loss of tree covered, and the cleared lands are returned into the grazing lands. Overgrazing by the cattle leads to further degradation of these lands. Major consequences of deforestation: threatens the existence of many wildlife species due to destruction of their natural habitat. Biodiversity is lost, and along with that, genetic diversity is eroded. Biodiversity is lost, so what happens is those species are no longer there, and those genes in those species are vanishing slowly. So certain types of genes may vanish off as these species become extinct. You may be surprised to know that there are so many species which we are not aware of yet. And the reason for that is that we cannot do research so deep in the forest or so deep under the water. And some of them existed and became extinct without our knowledge. Okay, we don't know about them also. Hydrological cycle gets affected, thereby influencing rainfall. Problem of soil erosion and loss of soil fertility increases. In hilly areas, it often leads to landslides. Major activities in the forest: timber extraction, logging for valuable timber such as teak and mahogany. Now, teak and mahogany are become a dream for common people. Okay, they are so expensive. You may find on these websites of uh, Urban Ladder and Pepper Fry and all that. The teak and mahogany, a small stool made up of mahogany wood or mango wood. Nowadays, they have been replaced by mango wood. It may cost you about 30 grand. So, not worth buying for it because it is too expensive. So teak and mahogany not only involves a few large trees per hectares, but also a dozen more trees since they are strongly interlocked with each other by vines, etc. Also, road construction for making approach to the trees causes further damage to the forest. So these trees are valuable trees because timber comes from it. And not only from that point of view, each tree supports few more species of trees which are growing next to them under their shade, under their support. So they are linked to each other by twines. You can call them that they are totally dependent on this tree. So once you cut a teak wood tree, that means those other trees which are dependent will also get destroyed. So if you're cutting one tree, you may be cutting actually six trees. Mining. Mining operations for extracting minerals and fossil fuels like coal often involves vast forest areas. Mining from shallow deposit is done by surface mining, while that from deep deposit is done by subsurface mining. More than 80,000, sorry, uh, yeah, 80,000 hectare of land of a country is presently under the stress of mining activities. Mining and its associated activities require removal of vegetation. Obviously, if you want to dig into it, the surface has to be cleared of vegetation along with underlying soil, mantle, and overlying rock masses. This results in defacing the topography and destruction of the landscape in the area. Large scale deforestation has been reported in Missouri and Dehradun Valley due to indiscriminate mining of various minerals over a length of about 40 kilometers. Anybody from Dehradun and Missouri will know about this. Major activities consist of the forest area has declined at an average rate of 33%, and the increase in non-forest area due to mining activities has resulted in relatively unstable zones leading to landslides. Indiscriminate mining in forest of Goa since 1961 has destroyed more than 50,000 hectares of forest land. Coal mining in Jharia, Raniganj, and Singrauli areas has caused extensive deforestation in Jharkhand. Mining of magnesite or magnetite also we call it, which is having magnetic properties, and soapstone have destroyed 14 hectares of forest in hill slopes of Kirakot, Kosi Valley, Almora. Mining of radioactive minerals in Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and Karnataka are posing similar threats of deforestation. The rich forests of Western Ghats are also facing the same threat due to mining projects for excavation of copper, chromite, bauxite, and magnetite. Now, this was all about the forest resource. Our next topic is going to be about water resource. Water is an indispensable natural resource on this earth uh, on which all life depends. You will see that almost every living being, including the human beings, require water for survival. Okay. Uh, or if something which does not require water, it is dependent on something else which requires water. So, directly or indirectly, every living being on the planet Earth requires water. About 97% of the Earth's surface is covered by water, and most of animals and plants have 65% water in their body. Okay. Water is categorized by certain unique features which make it a marvelous resource. That's why they say now if you are feeling sick, drink a lot of water because your whole body, a human body, they say 70% of the body is made up of water. So if you can replenish that water, then most of your sickness can go away because the major cause could be dehydration. It exists as a liquid over a wide range of temperatures, that is from 0 degrees to 100 degrees Celsius. It has the highest specific heat due to which it warms up and cools down very slowly without causing thermal shock to the aquatic life. It has high latent heat of vaporization, hence it takes huge amount energy of getting vaporized. That's why it produces a cooling effect as it evaporates. It is an excellent solvent for several nutrients, thus it can serve as a very good carrier of nutrients, including oxygen, which are essential for life, but it can also easily dissolve various pollutants and become a carrier of pathogenic microorganisms. So this last line is not a it is a drawback. It is not a boon. Water resources. Due to high surface tension and cohesion, it can easily rise through great heights through the trunk, even in the tallest of the trees like sequoia. So it can rise, that means it can be absorbed by these trees. The roots are the ones which do the job of absorbing water. Some roots go deep down if the water level is low, and they can siphon this water from the earth. And it can, since it is in a liquid form and the viscosity is almost zero, it can go to great heights. It has anomalous expansion behavior, that is, as it freezes, it expands instead of contracting and thus becomes lighter. It is because of this property of anomalous expansion that even in extreme cold, the lakes freeze only on the surface. Being lighter, the ice keeps floating, whereas the bottom water remains at a higher temperature and therefore can sustain aquatic organisms even in extreme cold. The water we use keeps on cycling endlessly through the environment, which we call as hydrological cycle. Now we have enormous resources of water on Earth covering about 70% of the Earth's surface area. Okay? The water from various moist surfaces evaporates and falls again on the Earth in the form of a rain or snow, gets consumed by living organism and ultimately returns to ocean. Every year, about 1.4 inch thick layer of water evaporates. So just imagine if 1.4 inches of water layer throughout the globe evaporates. It may, I'm sure it will be more in tropical area, less in those cold countries. But overall, if you see the layer of water, 1.4 inch evaporates every year. And just imagine if it is not replenished back at the same rate. If it becomes 1.2 also, if it becomes 1.3 also, you will be losing a point 1 of each every year. 90% of which returns to the ocean through hydrological cycles. Solar energy drives the water cycle by evaporating it from various bodies, which subsequently returns through rainfall or snow. So, if you deforest, now they are interlinked. Deforestation takes place, there is no green patch, so evaporation doesn't take place, moisture holding is not there, so rainfall is less, and slowly this replacing of 1.4 inch of thick layer of water is going to reduce. Plants to play a very vital role by absorbing uh, by absorbing the groundwater from the soil and releasing it into the atmosphere by process of transpiration. So plants are required for this purpose. If they are cut rampantly, then we will have problems. Swastik, can you put your mic off, please? Unless you want to say something.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So solar energy is important where the hydrological cycle for evaporating and from various bodies, which subsequently return them in the form of rainfall or snow, is also required. Global distribution of water resources is quite uneven depending upon several geographic factors. Yes, this is true because in if you see in a small state itself, some place you will find abundance of water is there, in some part in the same state there is no water, it is dry because of the lack of vegetation over there. And also, to some extent, we can blame ourselves that we have not created enough reserve, water reserve areas for water to be captured in that area during the monsoon. Tropical rainforest areas receive maximum rainfall while the major world deserts occur in zones of dry descending air. Now, this is because of the landscape. Okay? In a desert area, very difficult to grow trees. Though people have managed different types of trees to be grown in these areas, so desert areas are not completely dry today. They also receive very scanty rainfall at times. Okay, and sometimes they are surprised by the nature. You get sometimes heavy pour also. Desert occurs in zones of dry descending air 20-40 degrees Celsius north and south, degrees north and south latitude, and receive very little rainfall. Then comes the water use and overexploitation. Due to its unique property, water is of multiple uses for all living organisms. Water is absolutely essential for life, that is drinking water. Most of the life process takes place in water contained in the body. Uptake of nutrients, their distribution to the various parts of the body's regulation of temperature of the body, and removal of body toxins are all mediated through water. So it's not only drinking, we take it for granted, we drink water, but what all it does in your body is fabulous. Water used by human is of two types: withdrawal, taking water from groundwater or surface water; resource, domestic use, irrigation, sanitization, etc. Personal consumption, the water which is used for drinking. Studies indicate that a person needs a minimum of 20 to 40 liters of water a day for drinking, domestic use, sanitization. So overall, a one person on an average uses 20 to 40 liters of water, which you can easily calculate. If you drink about 4 liters of water and take bath with say a bucket of water which is 20 liters, तो कितना हो गया 24 liters तो इधर ही हो गया. Then you go to the toilets and you flush the toilets. Every time you flush the toilet, 8 to 10 liters of water is discharged. So another 30. So it's right. 40 liters, some of them must be using more than that. A precious natural resource is the water. Although water is very abundant on this earth, yet it is very precious. Out of total water reserves of the world, about 97% is salty water, marine, and only 3% is fresh water. So this is the catch. 97% is salty water and 3% is fresh water. So this 3% is the one which we are actually dependent on. Even this small fraction of fresh water is not available to us. Most of it is locked up in a polar ice caps, and just 0.003% is readily available to us in the form of groundwater and surface water. So imagine this. There was a talk about bringing these huge glaciers, towing them with by the sea and bringing them towards the areas where habitat is there. But then they realize by the time they are towed and brought there, they will melt and become a size of an ice cube. So no point in doing that. So out of this 3% fresh water, we have only 0.003% as drinking, or I would say water which can be used for domestic purposes. Rest of the water is in the form of frozen ice. Overuse of groundwater for drinking, irrigation, and domestic purposes resulted in rapid depletion of groundwater levels in various regions, leading to lowering of water table and drying of wells. Pollution of many of the groundwater aquifers has made of these wells unfit for consumption. So, due to polluting factors which are nearby those wells or ponds or rivers, those water which are present have become toxic, so they cannot be used or consumed. Rivers and streams have long been used for discharging the wastes. We know that. I can tell you that no water body in India is clean. Most of the civilizations have grown and flourished on the banks of the rivers. So they will wash their clothes, they will wash their kettle, they will go for sanitization with the same water. Unfortunately, population growth in turn has been responsible for pollution of the rivers. Talking about groundwater, about 9.86% of total freshwater resources is in the form of groundwater, and it is about 35 to 50 times that of the surface water supplies. So you can see that more water is stored under the ground, not in the urban areas because we have paved the roads, we have put tar, we have put tiles, and the percolation is not happening. But in the rural areas where still groundwater can percolate inside, is a tremendous amount. So 35 to 50 times more than the surface water. Effect of groundwater usage. Subsidence, land subsidence occurs when large amount of groundwater have been withdrawn from certain type of rocks, such as fine-grained sediments. The rock compacts because the water is partly responsible for holding the ground up. When the water is withdrawn, the rock falls in on itself. Lowering of water table, waterlogging. Waterlogging is caused by a combination of excess rainfall for the site, poor external drainage, runoff, poor internal drainage, water movement in the soil profile, and the inability of the soil to store much water. So I think we will stop here and continue with surface water next time. So any questions from your side, you can go ahead and ask me now. Today is 24th. Just a second. 21st was Monday. Okay, I didn't have this. This should be two. Okay, so I'm going to take your roll call. 041 Om Priyam. Om Priyam, are you present? 041. I don't see him. Okay. 042 Path Chaturvedi.
Present, sir.
43 Pala Aryan Hitendra.
Present, sir.
Paras Raj Singh. 044 Paras Raj Singh. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Present.
045 Patil Nilesh Prakash.
Present, sir.
046 Piyush Kumar.
Present, sir.
047 Piyush Singh.
Present, sir.
048 Pritam Kumar Das. I think he's going to withdraw. Qureshi Abdul Ahad,
Present, sir.
Rajkumar, Rajkumar name. Ranbir Singh,
Present, sir.
Ritul Singh,
Present, sir.
Saharsh Rangappa,
Present, sir.
Sakar Mathur,
Present, sir.
left. Sarthak Sinha,
Present, sir.
Soumya Kanthalia,
Present, sir.
Selvalingarohan, RJ 058, Sharma Divyanshu
Present,
Arun,
sir.
okay. Shetty Varad Satish,
Present, sir.
Shivansh Arora,
Present, sir.
Shreyansh Kaushik. Kaushik, can you hear me? Simardeep Singh, Somtake Makran Manoj, Sumed Dhage,
Present, sir.
Amit Joshi,
Present, sir.
Supare Sahil Sakkar,
Present, sir.
Swastik Rautre,
Present, sir.
Tamboli Faisal Samir,
Present, sir.
Tejas Chibar,
Present, sir.
Tushar Singh,
Present, sir.
Thayil Reno Stanley,
Present, sir.
Udayman,
Present, sir.
Vaishak Kamath,
Present, sir.
Vaishnav OM,
Present, sir.
Eduard Bansal,
Present, sir.
Yannam Sahil Srinivas,
Present, sir.
Yuddhajit Chakravarti,
Present, sir.
Yuvraj Singh 1,
Present, sir.
Yuvraj Singh 2.
Present, sir.
Okay. Okay, I'll call again. Om Priyam. Priyam is absent. Pritam Kaur Das. Shreyansh Kaushik. Simardeep Singh Bachchu.
Present, sir.
Why you did not answer earlier?
Sir, I gone for filling water bottle.
Go for that in the wrong time, you will miss the attendance. Okay. So this was 002 0900. Supposed to be 22nd, 21. I never had a class. So it's 23rd. Today is 24th. So guys, next faculty, I don't see him has joined yet. Who is the next faculty?
Sir.
Vyavare sir. Yeah, he will join. Okay, till then you can relax till he joins.